The Edmonton Oilers are looking for some depth options. Is Ilya Mikheyev an answer? Well, I'll talk about that on today's episode. Plus, Zach Hyman, how did he do this season? We'll have his report card. Plus, we'll have the predictions, the first predictions of the offseason. We'll have all that and so much more on today's episode of Locked On Oilers.
You're Locked On Oilers, your daily podcast on the Edmonton Oilers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to the Locked On Oilers podcast. I'm your host and former Oilers game day producer, Brett Holden. Today we are going to talk about Ilya Mikheyev. Just how much of a fit is he in Edmonton? I kind of teased which Maple Leaf it would be, but let's be real. If you're on YouTube and you saw the thumbnail, you knew I was talking about Ilya Mikheyev. So we'll talk about Ilya Mikheyev, what he could bring to the Oilers, and just how much he could possibly spend or cost the Edmonton Oilers to bring his services to Edmonton. Plus, we will talk about Zach Hyman's season that was, and oh my goodness, what a season it was for Zach Hyman. A lot of career highs and a lot of records set by this man, so we'll talk about that a little later on. Plus, the predictions are back, and I have an interesting one. I'll get this out of the way here. I have no inside source as to whether or not this could be true. I'm just having a little bit of fun with it. We'll talk about all that and so much more on today's episode of Locked On Oilers. And today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. And again, thank you so much for tuning into Locked On Oilers, and thank you for making it your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you find your podcasts, including on YouTube, as I mentioned, because I did post the thumbnail. Well, as if you know how YouTube works, you have to find the thumbnail first before you see the video. And well, I put Ilya Mikheyev on the thumbnail today because that's what we're talking about. Because I think Ilya Mikheyev, outside of Evander Kane and whatever help that he needs, and basically outside of the Edmonton Oilers RFAs that they need to bring in as well, Ilya Mikheyev is the one player outside of the organization right now that the Edmonton Oilers need to focus their attention on. Now, I know that may sound like a little bit of a silly statement considering the Oilers need goaltending and defense. And well, if Evander Kane doesn't stay, you're going to have to find an Evander Kane replacement. So is that Ilya Mikheyev? No, it is not. It is not. I'm telling you right now, Ilya Mikheyev is not that be all end all holy grail for the Edmonton Oilers top scoring. He's not. But what Ilya Mikheyev is a strong 200-foot player. Look at that, everybody. A guy that can play not only in your defensive end, but in your offensive end and in the neutral zone as well. And he does it damn well. He does it very well. He was on the Toronto Maple Leafs shorthanded unit, or PK unit, as most people call it. But he was one of the best penalty killers in the league. And I'm not just talking about amongst forwards. I'm talking about amongst everybody. His goals against shorthanded was 5.76. This is goals against per 60 minutes. So if you're taking all of the minutes that they play shorthanded and you put that into 60 minutes, I know that is very impossible, but you get to take a very solid look at just how strong or how not so strong a player is when they're on the ice, when a goal or is scored against or a goal is scored for. Ilya Mikheyev had a 5.76 goals against per 60 minutes on shorthanded. Now, I know you hear that and you go, 5 goals in 60 minutes? What are you talking about? How is that good? Well, we're talking about shorthanded, and that was in the top third of all NHLers. All of them. That was almost a 900 player scope. He's in the upper third. Now, I understand that not everybody plays on the penalty kill. That would be insanity for me to think that. But to think that out of all the players that do also play on the penalty kill, he's in the top third, and he's a forward. And not only that, he was second in the league, tied for second in the league for the most amount of shorthanded goals with 4. Oh, pretty decent. You know how he did that? With his speed, with his skating. The kid can skate almost as well as Connor McDavid. In fact, he beat Connor McDavid to an open puck when the Oilers and the Leafs were playing one time. And the internet blew up. And the internet went, holy cow, Ilya Mikheyev is almost as good of a skater as Connor McDavid is. And he's a third liner. Well, his numbers don't necessarily say he's a third liner. This past season, in 53 games played, 53, he didn't even play a whole 82 because he was injured, and I think he got a suspension at one time. I may be wrong on that, so Leafs fans don't come at me. Just correct me and say he didn't get suspended. Don't be rude. In 53 games played this year, Mikheyev had 21 goals, 11 assists for 32 points. Whoa, pretty decent. I mean, considering the Oilers had what? 5 20 goal scorers this year and 10 goal scorers is pretty decent, or whatever the numbers actually were. But the interesting thing is that Ilya Mikheyev's 21 goals this season brings his total for his career up to 36. So before this year, he only had 15 goals? He had 21, a career year this year. So he's only just now coming into his own. He made, I believe, off the top of my head, either $1.6 or $1.8 million this past year. So his price point isn't exactly out of the Oilers' range. And considering this is a 20-goal scorer, you could probably get Ilya Mikheyev for around $2 million. Is that not a pretty good price point for a guy who's scoring 20 goals this season? Now, I'm not going to say that he will for the Edmonton Oilers, but you're also considering that he may score 20 goals, but he's also playing defensive hockey. He's not just going out there and filling the net up with goals. In fact, at 5-on-5 play, goals against per 60, so that same stat we were just talking about at shorthanded, at 5-on-5, it goes down to a 2.17. That's better than Aaron Ekblad. Yeah, that Aaron Ekblad from the NHL's leading team, the Florida Panthers. Their number one defenseman. Yeah, Ilya Mikheyev is better than that. In fact, that goals against per 60 is in the top quarter of the whole NHL. Of all the guys who played at least, this is a minimum of 300 minutes. Oh, no, actually, that's a lie. That is everybody in the league. Everybody in the league. The previous stat was with people or players that have played a minimum of 20 minutes on the PK, so guys who play on the penalty kill. This is everybody in the NHL. Ilya Mikheyev, 2.17 goals against average. Now, what does he produce offensively? Well, 5-on-5, he produced an even 3 goals per 60 minutes. That was better than, let me just get my list out here. That was better than Mika Zibanejad, Artemi Panarin, Patrick Kane, William Nylander, his teammate, Troy Terry, Trevor Zegras, and Cole Caulfield. Not bad. Pretty decent. All those guys have all scored 20 goals at least in their career. Well, other than Zegras and Caulfield. But they're going to get there. Those are 2 guys who are going to score at least 30 in their career. A couple times. Ilya Mikheyev has a better goals for per 60 minutes than all those players. Also, shorthanded, his goals for per 60 minutes, shorthanded, is 3.84 per 60 minutes With a man down, he averages 3.84 goals a game with a man down. That is top 10 in the league with guys that have played at least 20 minutes on the penalty kill, which is basically all penalty killers. That's insane. That is insane. The rest of the guys that are above him are all guys who, have played like at the bare minimum and was on for a couple of shorthanded goals. Like, that is 3.84. He scored 4 shorthanded goals this year, and I'm pretty sure one of them was against the Oilers. What else do you need to see? Ilya Mikheyev. I'm telling you, the Edmonton Oilers need to bring him in. Because this is the guy that will help the Edmonton Oilers in the bottom 6 and solidify that bottom 6 and make the Edmonton Oilers that much more difficult to play against, especially as a forward and you're stopping that many goals or preventing that many goals. That's tough to play against. All righty, we will cut the Ilya Mikheyev talk there, and we'll talk about a former teammate of his, which might become a future teammate as well, and that is Zach Hyman. How did his season go about as we continue on with our player report cards, I should say. I was going to say scouting report cards, but our player season report cards from this past year with Zach Hyman. We'll get to that in just a second, but first, I want to tell you about our next partner who has a product that I use literally every day. I started using Athletic Greens because I wanted to stop using a supplement that had all those pills, and I wanted something that actually revitalized and optimized my gut health, and as well, I didn't want to waste a whole bunch of time with all those pills. That is exactly what I get with Athletic Greens. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, your recovery, your focus, your aging, all of the things. It helps with all of them. I started to get my parents on it. I've mentioned that before, but they text me saying thank you for getting us on it. Like, they use it literally every day, and it helps them with all the stuff that I just mentioned in a very long list. It is lifestyle friendly as well, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. It is all good for you. It contains less than 1 gram of sugar as well. No GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, all while still tasting great. How do they do that? I imagine something green and I'm like, even though I'm wearing a green shirt. I just think it's like, okay, this is going to taste like broccoli and dirt. And it doesn't. It costs you less than $3 a day as well. It is way cheaper than your cold brew habit. So you're actually investing in your health. Plus, Athletic Greens has over 7,000 5-star reviews and is recommended by professional athletes themselves. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system, with convenient daily nutrition. It is just 1 scoop of water, 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That is it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy on you, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs. With your first purchase, all you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership of your gut health, of your health, and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. How many times do I have to read that? And I still stumble through it. That's okay. That's life. You're not going to get everything all at the same time. Thank you so much for tuning in to Locked On Oilers. We are free and available wherever you find your podcast. And just before we move on to Zach Hyman, we have a favor to ask of you. We put together a survey so we can learn more about our listeners like you and make your favorite Locked On podcast even better. This is your opportunity to tell us what you like and what you don't like about Locked On Podcasts. Head to lockedonpodcast.com/survey right now and get started. It won't take very long, and everyone that completes a survey can qualify for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Ticketmaster gift cards. Yeah. To take your audience survey, head to lockedonpodcast.com/survey. That is lockedonpodcast.com/survey. Thank you so much for your help. How's everyone doing today? Let's take a sip of water. Let's take a breath. Let's move on. It's a Monday. Okay, it's the start of a new week. We never know what's going to happen on in and around a week. And we will get to our predictions of the week in a little later today, but let's talk about a sure thing, baby. And that is Zach Hyman. Oh my goodness, what a player and what an acquisition Zach Hyman was for the Edmonton Oilers, as a lot of people were very concerned at the price point that the Edmonton Oilers got Zach Hyman in. And I said this, or Zach Hyman I should say. I said this the moment that the Edmonton Oilers even started talking with Zach Hyman. The realistic thing about hockey and the hockey business is it's just that, is it's a business. Whoever's going to get the most sought after free agent, whether that's rightfully so or wrongfully so, is going to overpay at some point, whether it's with the term or whether that's with the money. And that's what the Edmonton Oilers did. They're paying him for what, 7 years? And a lot of people were looking at that like, man, that you're paying a power forward really that much? Like, is he going to help your team that much? Yeah, he did. He helped the team a lot, actually. Actually, probably the third best player on the Edmonton Oilers this past season, if you ask me. Zach Hyman set career highs in goals, assists, and points this season with the Edmonton Oilers. 27 goals, 27 assists, good enough for 54 points. Wow. And that is all also mostly done without playing with Connor McDavid. Like, he didn't always play with Connor McDavid in the games that he played well against, that he even played realistically. I mean, especially after Evander Kane came in. I almost said Evander Kane in. There we go. After Evander Kane came in, I mean, no one was playing with Connor McDavid other than him. And Zach Hyman went out there and said, okay, I'm just going to keep doing me. And that's what he did. He was the best version of Zach Hyman that Zach Hyman could have ever imagined. He didn't even play every game. In 76 games, he put up 54 points. And that was in his first season. Now, I understand he's turning 30, but that's okay. After seeing what Mike Smith has done at 40, we can kind of take that age thing away for a little bit, okay? Also, he scored 24 goals, in games that the Edmonton Oilers went on to win. 41 points in the games that the Edmonton Oilers would win. So whenever Zach Hyman would score, you basically kind of knew the Edmonton Oilers would go on to win that game. That's a pretty important impact. Like, I know that kind of sounds like, oh, is it a super stat or is it just whatever, you know? That's pretty important. When you know a guy is actually going out there and producing in important games in important times, and when he goes out there and scores, you're probably going to go on to win a game. That boosts a team. That means, oh, okay, you know what? I'm actually going to give the puck to Zach here and maybe get open here. That means you're going to go out there on the ice and work even harder, because you know that guy next to you is going to be working just as hard, if not harder than you. So you're going to want to go out there and look at him and go, I'm going to work harder than him. And that is the mentality a winning team has. I want to go out there and work just as hard, if not harder than that guy. And when we win, then we can go out there and be just as proud of each other as we would have been. You know what I'm like? That type of player is invaluable. You see what Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl do, and their obvious skill obviously is going to make the players around them better. But it's the work ethic in Zach Hyman that is just so far and above anybody that is on the Edmonton Oilers, even like Connor McDavid sometimes. Zach Hyman, like Jay Woodcroft and even Dave Tippett before he left was going out there and saying, you know what, guys need to be looking at Zach Hyman, seeing what he does and applying it to their game. Because he is the epitome of hardworking. And it panned out for him. In fact, it continued to pan out for him in the playoffs. In the playoffs, in 16 games played, 11 goals, 5 assists, 16 points. He scored a goal in every game against the Calgary Flames. Guys, he scored a goal in every game against the Calgary Flames and then went on to score more in game 1 against the Colorado Avalanche. Nobody has ever done that before for the Edmonton Oilers. Nobody has ever scored in every game of a series for the Edmonton Oilers before. And I know I have beaten that joke to bed. I've beaten that dead horse. But the Oilers have had Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, Mark Messier, Glenn Anderson, Paul Coffey. I don't know if you ever heard of him. Esa Tikkanen, Jari Kurri, Leon Draisaitl. None of them have done what Zach Hyman has. Zach Hyman came into the playoffs with less than 10 goals. I think he had 5 goals coming into these playoffs. He has scored more goals, more points in one playoff season with the Edmonton Oilers in 16 games with the Edmonton Oilers than he ever did with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And that's a team that made the playoffs every year that he was there. Sorry, Toronto fans. Sorry, I just had to put that in there. My final ranking or final rating, my grade for Zach Hyman this season, it's another one. We're giving it an A+. Zach Hyman, purely because he exceeded expectations and really propelled this Oilers team. Like, without Zach Hyman this year, I couldn't imagine where the Oilers would have been, really. But let's move forward. Let's move on, and let's look forward to the week that could be. We have 3 predictions for this week, this coming week. Will they come to fruition? And one might be a signing. Ooh, we'll see. We'll get to that in just a second. But first, I want to tell you about our partners over at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, news, and odds, including this year's NBA Finals, as they are 2-2 in that. That's getting interesting. Is Golden State back, or Boston the new bullies in town? Plus, the NHL. How could I not mention the Stanley Cup? They finally have the matchup. The Colorado Avalanche and the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's going to be an exciting one. Who are you taking? I want to know what your lines are on BetOnline. Well, stay tuned for that, because those are brand new. Those are going to be exciting. Plus, MMA and UFC fights. There was an exciting UFC fight this weekend as well, and I heard one of them. Now, I'm normally a UFC fan, so I normally am like watching all of them. This weekend, I was just doing my thing, so I don't know about much of the fights here, but I heard there was one that was like fight of the year potential. Like, we're talking pretty big. Plus, the NFL, Aaron Donald just signed a massive deal with the Rams as well. So the NFL is going to start getting kickstarted here. Lamar Jackson's sitting out of OTAs. DK Metcalf out of OTAs. This year's going to be exciting. Some interesting lines will be coming out of that as well. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and much more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Alrighty, let's take one last water break. Okay, as it is Monday, I just want to remind you to hydrate on Mondays. It's starting to get warmer here in Edmonton. Okay, sometimes that warm summer can really get to you. But let's move on to our predictions for the week. This is going to be an exciting week. Is now we get a full week of the off season. As last week was, we had game one on Monday, and now we got the exit interviews, and now I guess it's the off season and all that. Now we get a full week of the off season. Now we're into it. So let's get our first predictions of the off season. And this week, I suspect that the Edmonton Oilers will re-sign Jay Woodcroft. I know that one's not as exciting. That one's a little bit. Oh, okay, yeah, we all knew that one was coming. But I mentioned off the top of the episode, I don't have any sort of inside source right now that's saying, oh, it's going to happen tomorrow. Oh, it's going to happen Thursday. I don't have that. I just think, I don't think the Oilers are going to go too long with it being in limbo, I guess, officially. I think we all know Jay Woodcroft is going to be back next year. The imprint that he made and the difference that him and his staff made in Edmonton is one of the most massive coaching changes that Edmonton has seen. I don't want to say ever. We have had a lot of massive coaches, but mid-season took this team from outside of the playoffs to the Final Four, actually gave structure inside and on the ice, inside the locker room. I mean, the message was clear from day one, and you got that feeling from everybody. You constantly heard we're only taking it one game at a time. It's only small picture. You heard that every day. That is what a coach does. He changes your mentality and changes your output and outlook on the game. And he did that for a team that seriously needed it. And now you see what comes of it. A team that had no goalie. Let's be real. They had Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen and a shambles defense. And they made it to the Final Four because they knew how to get out of those tough situations. Now he gets a full off season to go and do his thing, bring in the players he wants to, and mold that system even more. That's scary. And I think the Edmonton Oilers organization realizes that. So I think this week, Jay Woodcroft gets his brand new contract for a head coaching job. I guess his first one as his real first one without the interim in front of it in the NHL. The second prediction I have for this week is we're going to get retirement news. I know there have been some reports coming out that the Edmonton Oilers have given Mike Smith and Duncan Keith till July 1st to decide whether or not they are going to retire. I don't think it's going to take very long for one of them. I'm not sure which one. But I think either Mike Smith or Duncan Keith will announce their retirement this week, excuse me. My gut is leaning towards Mike Smith, and that's only because of just how somber and reflective he kind of sounded and kind of dismissive at the same time in his exit press conference. So it just kind of felt more imminent almost, where Duncan Keith, I think he'll just kind of take it to the deadline. I don't think he really wants to give it up, but you can tell it's just kind of, it's not there for Duncan Keith anymore. It's kind of sad to see, especially coming from a guy or watching a guy who used to be so influential in this generation of hockey. Like Duncan Keith was one of, if not the best defenseman of the last generation. I guess running through a couple in my head, there are a couple that were just as good. But Duncan Keith won how many cups? Won a Vezina, was, again, like, led defenseman in points. Like, he was the premier defenseman at a time. It's kind of sad to think about. But if both those guys retire from the Edmonton Oilers standpoint, that's cap space and money in our money in the bank. That wasn't what I wanted to say, but that's what we're going to go with. So this week, I think one of Mike Smith or Duncan Keith will retire. And the third and final prediction for this week is the Edmonton Oil Kings will win the WHL Ed Chenoweth Cup. As yes, that is how you say it. I heard it from an official source. So if they're wrong, then we're all wrong. But yes, the Ed Chenoweth Cup. Game 6 happens tonight in Edmonton. Now, Game 5 was also in Edmonton. I know you're thinking, well, wait, why are they playing back-to-back games in Edmonton? Just how WHL works. You go 2 games in Edmonton, 2 games in Seattle, 2 games in Edmonton, and then Game 7, despite the fact that Seattle was the lower seed, Game 7 would be in Seattle. So if the Seattle Thunderbirds do come back, I guess, and force a Game 7, well, that would happen in Seattle, but we don't have to worry about that because I am calling it right now. The Edmonton Oil Kings will win the Ed Chenoweth WHL final tonight in Edmonton. What a game that is going to be. I'm going to be there. If you see me, say hi. And please go to the game, by the way. I know Edmonton's a massive Edmonton Oilers city, but take a look at this team, guys. If you get a chance to take a look at the Edmonton Oil Kings, Caden Gooley, a Montreal Canadiens prospect. Dylan Guenther isn't playing. He is hurt right now, but 9th overall pick to the Arizona Coyotes. Sebastian Kosha, Detroit Red Wings pick. Justin Sordoff, Florida Panthers pick. Demick is Vegas Golden Knights pick. I'm missing another. Luke Prokop, a Nashville Predators pick. They got guys all over. Oh, Jake Neighbors. That's who I was missing. Jake Neighbors, St. Louis Blues pick. They got guys all over the place. Josh Williams had 25, at least a 25. I think he had a 30-goal season this year. Carter Such is a homegrown talent. I watched the kid play for the Oil Kings when he was 16 years old, when I was still in broadcasting school. This is a young and exciting team with guys who are going to move on to the next level and have very successful NHL careers. And you can watch them win a title on home ice tonight. Plus, on the Seattle side, they got guys like Kevin Korchinski, who is going to go in the first round of the NHL draft this year. Reed Schaefer, who might, and I'm going to wink my eye a little bit here because he may be a name that we talk about on Locked On Oilers in the future, because he may be a name that the Edmonton Oilers will take a look at in the draft this year. There are a lot of guys in this game that have futures in the NHL that are playing right in front of you. And you get a chance to watch it tonight in Edmonton as the Edmonton Oil Kings take on the Seattle Thunderbirds in Game 6 of the WHL final. All of that is so exciting. We have so much exciting stuff for you coming up this offseason. A lot of exciting new shows, maybe some guests as well coming on as well. So a lot of exciting stuff. Plus, like I mentioned, I'm a massive prospect guy. I wouldn't be gushing over the Oil Kings if I wasn't. So you are in the right place if you're looking for who the Edmonton Oilers might be looking at in the draft this year. We will have all that and so much more this week and in the offseason on Locked On Sports. But this is where we're going to call it today. Thank you so much for making Locked On Oilers your first listen every day. After this, for your second listen, make sure you tune in to Locked On NHL. Locked On NHL covers the playoffs like no other. Hear the latest news and opinions from local experts every Monday through Friday. It is free and available wherever you find your podcast. Plus, it's on YouTube. If you're not already subscribed to YouTube, what are you doing? Go subscribe. Okay, I'm rambling on way too much, everybody. Have a wonderful Monday. I hope you have a great week. Stay safe. Don't do anything I wouldn't do.